Hey there, welcome back to Badass List Building. We're still in Module 1, List Building Basics. And here in Lesson 3, we're talking about who do you want on your list. And this is a question you need to be able to answer, and you need to be able to answer it specifically before you start any of the work that we're going to be, kind of going through in this course. So we want to make sure that you have this nailed down. Now, the truth bomb is that you don't want to build a list of all the people. You want to build a list full of the right people. So obviously that means you have to define who are the right people. Who is it that you actually want to attract? And then once you've done that work, you can start kind of executing and building out your list building efforts. Now, in the last lesson, we talked about the FANS framework, the find, attract, nurture, serve framework for kind of inbound marketing, for getting people into your world and attracting them in the right way. Now, in the last lesson, though, we focused mainly on attract, nurture, and serve. And we were talking about like content marketing and email marketing and list building and all of that. That's what we were talking about. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about the find phase. And that's because, candidly, the find phase is something that you need to be doing or need to have really done well before you start to build your email list. This is where the find phase is, where you figure out who do you want to serve and you define it specifically. You define the group of people that you want to be your niche, and you figure that out, and there's a lot of investigation. It's the market research. It's all of those things that you're doing that we talked about, as things that you need to do and understand way back in the Online Marketing Foundations course here in BOMU. You've got to be doing that work first so that you really are in a position to build the right list. And one of the biggest mistakes marketers make is they try to serve everyone rather than focusing on only the right people. And maybe you're saying, well, I'm not trying to serve everyone. But if you're thinking that you're going to serve a bunch of different groups of people with different problems, or maybe they have the same problem, like they need the same solution, but the reason they need it is different, you're going to be in trouble. And I always use this example. If you have a program that's going to help people learn how to take good photos with their iPhone, there could be a couple of markets there. One could be for parents like me. I want to take better pictures of my kid. Another could be for travel bloggers. And you can see how it's going to be tough for you to speak to both of us because our concerns are very different. And if you're speaking at a very generic level to speak to all of us, all of a sudden you end up not really speaking to any of us. So what you need to do is define a specific group of people that you serve and what the problem is you help them to fix. And this results in a niche statement where, again, you should be able to reduce it down to a niche statement that defines the group of people you serve and the problem you help them solve. And it should be specific, and the more specific, the better. So people who struggle with taking good pictures is not a group of people. Parents of young children would be getting better. You can see how we're getting more specific, how the problem sets are the same. Now, this course, this program, we are not talking about niching here. If you're struggling with your niching, it's covered in Module 2 of Online Marketing Foundations. I believe it's Lesson 2. It's the first kind of substantive lesson in the commit to lead an audience phase. That is foundational work that you need to have done. You need to have figured that piece out. If you're at a point right now where you're thinking very broadly, et cetera, where you can't identify kind of with some level of specificity the group of people you want to serve and the problem you want to help them solve, go back to that course now. Stop this course now and go back there because you really do need to do that work. You're not going to be able to find or attract your people until you have defined your niche effectively. So in list building and all of the stuff we're doing here in this program, you're not going to be able to do it if you don't know the people you serve and if you can't define it in a very specific way. So I give you that as a caveat. You need to do that. Now, let's talk quickly about how niching kind of and list building go hand in hand. How the niche you pick, kind of figuring out who is it you want to serve with some specificity, is going to affect your list building efforts. First of all, it's the journey. Kind of the niche you pick is what will define the journey that people are on from kind of where they are now to where they want to go. It's going to define the starting point. It's going to define the end point. It's going to define all of these things in between. Now, I'm not saying that everyone in your potential audience is going to have the exact same path, is going to have the exact same struggles. That's not going to be the case. But generally, picking a niche should say, hey, as a general matter, here's where they are right now. Here's where I want them to be so that they'll be in a position to buy from me. So you can kind of draw the journey that people will have to go on, the things they're going to have to knock down, the skill sets they'll need to develop. All of those things you'll be able to define based upon your niche. If you haven't defined a niche yet, you can't do that. And there could be people coming from 18 different starting points, and you're not going to be able to define a clear path that a lot of people will be on. That's a problem because of the next piece. The niche is what defines the pain points. Kind of what are people struggling with? What is it that they're feeling? What are the frustrations? And I'll go back to the example of, a program to help people take better photos. If I'm a parent, what am I struggling with? I'm struggling with, I take 18 pictures and none of them are good. And so that's a struggle. And part of it is, hey, my 7-year-old daughter is moving and it's tough to do all these things and light. And maybe she's, doesn't want me to take pictures. So we have all of those pain points and all of those struggles, which again, very different from if I was a travel blogger and I'm just saying, hey, I can't get good, sunset pictures, or I can't get good pictures of, just kind of static places, like places that there's not a lot of motion. And you can see how the pain points, the struggles are different. And that means that in speaking to those two different audiences, you're going to have very different messages. And a freebie that's going to, attract me as a parent, something that's going to get me to join your list isn't going to be you talking about how to take a great sunset photo. It's going to be something about, hey, how do you get your 7-year-old to stand still long enough to get a good picture? Or how do you take a picture even when your kids are moving and have it look good? So again, you can see how the pain points affect everything you're going to do, and that's defined by the niche. And then finally, the hook. So kind of the niche is what's going to define how you'll attract people to join your list. Again, based on those pain points, based upon what your particular people are struggling with, you're going to speak to that. Now, you'll remember we talked about content marketing. We talked about that in the last lesson about how all of this fits together. That's going to help you define this process, right? Once you know your people, you'll know what content to create. And then what we're going to talk about in this course is kind of what's that last piece of content to get them from, a potential person who might join your list to someone who does join your list by giving them the right content, the right hook, the right thing that's the incentive for them to say, yep, I'm raising my hand. I want to hear from you. All of that defined by the niche. So you have to define who you want to serve and do that specifically before you do the work in this course. So kind of takeaway here is that you can't build the right email list until you've done the work to define your ideal niche. So then the call to action is that if you haven't yet, take the time to define your niche specifically. If you need help with that, go back to Online Marketing Foundations, Module 2. There's an entire lesson on it. There's an entire process. We walk through how to do it. Head back there and make sure that you've done this work. Now, in the next lesson, we're going to talk about kind of at a high level, what the list building process looks like, how are you going to get people to do it, what are the different components, et cetera, just to make sure you understand the process from start to finish.